mean, Tulane lost to Ole Miss by 35 earlier this year. JMU, if this were a regular season game, Oregon would beat JMU at home by 50.
We reached the part of the season where we're in the first round of the college football playoffs, so we have Matt here to go over games and give predictions. So looking at that first game, Oklahoma, Alabama, which offense do you trust more heading to this first round matchup?
It's a great question. I actually don't know. I mean, middle of the season, Ty Simpson was the leading Heisman front runner. Earlier in the season, John Mateer was the Heisman front runner. I think they're both kind of iffy right now. Mateer's probably playing a little better. I think the Alabama offensive line is struggling a little bit more than the Oklahoma offensive line. I covered the game in Tuscaloosa, and it was brutal. I mean, brutal. Two good defenses and a couple offenses that really had no idea how to move the ball. And Oklahoma figured it out in the fourth quarter enough to win the game. Wow. It's a great question, Evan, honestly. I would say right now, if you ask me who has the better shot at moving the ball, I would say Oklahoma, only because they're at home and only because that loud crowd is going to lead to like some false starts and procedure penalties against Alabama.
Do you give the Oklahoma D-line the edge as far as matchups between the offense and defense with both teams?
I think they're very similar. Alabama's very, very athletic and aggressive in the front seven. And I think it's a really underrated aspect of that team. But I mean, if I had to choose between the two, I would probably just slightly go Oklahoma, just slightly. There's just two really good defenses.
Looking at the second competitive game, at least going into the first round, Texas A&M versus Miami. Will we see the dominant Aggies team that we saw majority of the year, or will we see the inconsistent team we saw for the past 2 weeks going up against Miami?
You know, it's a great question because I think a lot of people focus on that schedule. And other than the Notre Dame win at Notre Dame, again, a very impressive win by Texas A&M. But when you start playing the lower half of the SEC in your league schedule and the teams that are ranked below you in the college football playoff poll and, of course, the Georgia above you, you start looking at that and you start thinking that Texas A&M played none of those teams in the poll. And you start to think, all right, well, what is this team really? I think they're a very good team. I really like Marcel Reed, and I really like his ability to put defenses in conflict. That's going to be a problem for Miami. But the Miami Edges, if they can keep him boxed in and they don't allow him to kind of break, contain, and do things with his legs and kind of change the game, which he does all the time, I think Miami's got a chance to go in there and win. But that also, they're going to need a perfect game from Carson Beck, who, oh, by the way, and this has been kind of overshadowed throughout the entire month of November because of all that's going on and who's going to get in and who's going to get out. Carson Beck has played fantastic in the month of November. And if he keeps playing that way, I think they've got a chance to go in there and win that game.
Is he the X factor in this game with what experience he's had in past years? And just also, this team didn't look like they were getting in before the polls. They jumped Notre Dame, and they kind of backs against the wall. They really have nothing to prove because at one point they probably didn't expect to be here.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is in big games like this, I always think, best quarterback wins. And right now, both these guys are really playing well. And Texas A&M at home, and Marcel Reed plays much better at home than he does on the road. This is going to be a tough spot for Miami. They wanted this game. They screamed and yelled for a month. They were better than Notre Dame, and I agree with them. The head-to-head's got to matter. But this is the spot they're in right now, and it's a difficult spot. And again, I'm looking at best quarterback wins, and I know Carson Beck has played really well, but boy, Marcel Reed, man, at home with the ability to break and contain and do things with his legs and really put that defense in conflict, that's going to be a problem for Miami, I think.
Now, these next two games, it's not looking like it's going to be pretty much entertaining. You have the two group of 5 teams playing. Does either team have a chance to upset their opponent?
None. I mean, Tulane lost to Ole Miss by 35 earlier this year. JMU, if this were a regular season game, Oregon would beat JMU at home by 50. And I don't know that Dan Lanning will do that. He might let up a little bit in the fourth quarter and try and just get out of there without getting anybody hurt. No. And here's the thing, too. And these two teams are way different than Boise State last year. Way different. That Boise State team last year went into Eugene, Oregon, and the Ducks needed a punt return for a touchdown, a kick return for a touchdown, and a field goal in the last second of the game, a game-winning field goal to beat Boise State. Boise State had a tremendous resume last year. Neither of these two teams have a resume, albeit tremendous. So, look, I get it. And I know you want to kind of like not you, everybody wants to kind of say, all right, well, let's get the group of 5 in there. No, let's get the best 12 teams in there. But that's of course, another argument for another day.
All right, looking at the 4 games, which 14 punches their tickets for the quarterfinals in the college football playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's chalk. I think the highest ranked teams go. So I mean, you're looking at Ole Miss, you're looking at Oregon, and I think you're looking at Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma finds a way in that game, and I think Texas A&M with Marcel Reed is going to be a lot for that Miami defense to handle.
Last year, Ohio State played in the first round, made it all the way to the championship game and won. Is there one team that's playing in this first round that you could see pull off the same course that Ohio State did last year?
You know what? If Lane Kiffin was still the coach at Ole Miss and he decided, nope, I'm staying at Ole Miss. I want to be the coach here. This is where we are moving forward. I'd say Ole Miss. But I just don't know that they can do that and they can make that kind of run without him there. And I get it. Charlie Weiss is the play caller and has been the play caller for the last couple of years. But having your coach on the sideline and having that guy who can step in at any moment and say, let's do this or let's do that, and he's been in those situations before, in these big moments before, is a big deal. So if you're asking if any of these 4 that can move on, no, I don't think so. I don't think any of them. I don't think Oregon has enough offensively to do it. And A&M, while talented, yeah, they haven't faced the type of competition that you're going to face once you get to there's 8 teams left. You know what I mean?